Hello again. Hello once again and welcome again. Welcome back to Vaughan Inglés 4.0 and welcome back to the advanced level and welcome back to class number 80. I'm glad to see you again. I'm glad you're here. It's good to have you back as a regular student. We have a lot of work. We have to first review. Let's review the translation list from yesterday. Camera 1. El plazo termina mañana. The deadline's tomorrow. The deadline's tomorrow, my friends, so make sure you have everything ready, because if it's not ready by the deadline, you're dead, all right? You're a cooked goose, un ganso cocinado, decimos. Si no entregas todo para mañana, que es el fin de plazo. The deadline is tomorrow. Contrayendo, the deadline's tomorrow. The deadline's tomorrow. Tengo derecho a una pensión, eh? I'm entitled to a pension. I'm entitled to many things. I'm entitled. Society, la sociedad me debe todo. Yes. I have my rights and I have my obligations. Now, let's talk about my rights. Those are more important. I'm entitled to a job. I'm entitled to free education. I'm entitled to free books. Why pay for books? I'm entitled to free internet. I'm entitled to free English classes. I'm entitled to a house. Why do I need to make an effort to buy a house? It's my right to have shelter, cobijo. I'm entitled to all these things. And of course, I'm entitled to a pension, okay? And I'm entitled to a wedding paid by the state. I'm entitled to free medical care all the time. I'm entitled to free dental care. Yes, those are my rights. Now my obligations, I can't remember what they are, but okay, that's not important. What's important are my rights. To be entitled to, tener derecho a. También podemos decir to have a right to. I have a right to a house. I have a right to a car paid by the state. Okay, for example. Pero no lo decimos así. Solemos decir I'm entitled to. Entitlements son los gastos corrientes del Estado, que son promesas, compromisos que hay que cumplir, como las pensiones. Those are entitlements. And it's a very important portion of the state budget, or in the United States we say the federal budget. It's a very important component, the entitlements. Perhaps more than 30 or 40% of the money that a government spends is for pensions. And here for health care too. Okay, tengo derecho a una pensión. I'm entitled to a pension. Tendrás que tragar tu orgullo, my friend. You'll have to swallow your pride. To swallow your pride. All right? To eat humble pie. Comer tarta humildad. To swallow your pride. Yes, to swallow. Como el verbo to follow, quitando la F, poniendo SW, swallow. Has hecho progresos fenomenales en los 3 últimos meses. You've made terrific progress in the last 3 months. In the past 3 months, in the last 3 months, in the past 3 months, you've made simply terrific progress. Remarkable progress. Extraordinary progress. I'm proud of you. Que fue una experiencia gratificante. It was a rewarding experience. A very rewarding experience. I'm glad I did it because in the end, at the beginning I was worried, but in the end, it was a recording. At the end, no, at the end sería al final de todo físicamente, pero in the end, es el último término, en el análisis final. In the end, it was a very rewarding experience. Viene la palabra recompensa, reward, rewarding, gratificante. Vaya follón, what a mess. ¿Cómo te has metido en ese lío? How did you get yourself into that mess? Oh, seen yourself. How did you get into that mess? How are you going to get out of that mess? Can't you help me? I need your help. But first, tell me how you got into that mess. Well, I trusted people I shouldn't have trusted. Well, that happens sometimes. And when you trust people you shouldn't have trusted, when you make a mistake in trusting certain people, the price is usually very high and the cost in time is high as well. It takes a long time to get out of that kind of mess when you trust the wrong people. So good luck, my friend. I can't help you on that. It takes time. All right. So the next time, make sure you trust the right people. Okay? Están conspirando para derrocar el gobierno. They're plotting to overthrow the government. To plot, to conspire. Ahora sustantivos. A plot, a conspiracy, a plot, a conspiracy. Un complot. All right, una conspiración. A plot, a conspiracy. To plot against. Conspirar contra. In this case, they are plotting or conspiring. Se dice mucho más plotting en este caso. They're comploting, Spanish. They're plotting to overthrow. Derrocar, to overthrow the government. The Allende government was overthrown by the Pinochet regime, and many other regimes or democratic governments and non-democratic governments have been overthrown in history. A lot of governments. Okay, hicieron puente. They took a long weekend. We don't have the expression hacer puente in English because we don't make bridges, okay? If there's a holiday in the middle of the week, it's moved to Friday or to Monday. So we have long weekends, but we don't jump working days in the middle. So hicieron puente sería lo mejor. Lo más cercano en inglés is to take a long weekend. Hicieron puente. They took a long weekend. ¿Cuándo piensas renovar tu permiso? When are you planning to renew your permit? Your work permit, permiso de trabajo. When do you plan or when are you planning? ¿Cuándo piensas hacerlo? When do you plan or when are you planning to renew your work permit? El chismorreo ha alcanzado niveles insoportables aquí. The gossip, doble S en medio, gossip escrito, gossip, has reached unbearable levels in this organization. The gossip has reached. Eso es lo más importante de toda la frase. Ni gossip, ni unbearable, ni level. Reached. Okay? The gossip has reached unbearable levels. Doy por sentado que sabes el desenlace. I take for granted you know the outcome. And the outcome is I need to pass the program to another teacher and come back in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard, and welcome. Welcome to you. I'm here with Mario today. Mario, how are you?
I'm okay.
Good. And today, Mario and I are going to take a look at the review from class 79, starting with the number 0. And when we say O instead of 0. So we saw that we say O. We can also say nil. We can also say, in tennis, what do they say in tennis? Do you know?
Oh.
They say love.
Love?
Love, like amor. Love. That's right. And so basically we say O. In case you missed it yesterday, we tend to say O when we're talking about room numbers in a hotel, for example. Dates. My grandfather crossed the ocean in 1905. Time, right? It's 4:05, right, Mario?
Yeah.
And telephone numbers. My mother's telephone number, or my friend's telephone number, 902-20405, or O instead of 0, very often. It's not a firm rule, but those are the 4 cases when we usually use O instead of 0, right? And
Okay.
nil is more common. Well, nil is used often, I think, in British English, not so much in American English, but we do use O a lot in American English. So let's translate. En el año 1805, Juan ganó el partido 6-0, 6-1, 6-0. So it's tennis here. It's tennis.
In 1905, John won
1800.
1805.
In 1805.
In 1805, John won the match by 6-love.
Well, he won the match 6-love.
6-love, 6-1, 6-2.
6-love.
6-love.
6-love, 6-1, 6-love. That's right. Okay. Dormí en la habitación 302.
I slept in the room number.
In
the
room number. We didn't read the article.
In room number 302.
I slept in room number 302. Very good. Okay. Mi abuelo vino a Canadá en 1908. In casa, at home, my grandfather came to Canada in
1908.
1908. Exactly. It's true. Son las 3:05.
It's 3:05.
It's 3:05. It's 3:05. Very good. Murió en 1903.
He died in 1903.
He died in 1903. All right, very good. Let's move on to the translation list, Mario. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
He's ready. Are you ready at home? El plazo termina mañana. El plazo termina mañana. El plazo, sorry. El plazo termina mañana.
The deadline expires tomorrow.
Yeah, well, the deadline, we could say the deadline is
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. The deadline is tomorrow. And with the contraction?
The deadline's tomorrow.
The deadline's tomorrow. Hurry up. The deadline's tomorrow. Tengo derecho a una pensión.
I have the right of
pension.
Of a pension.
Okay, but instead of have the right, I'm entitled.
I'm entitled of a pension.
I'm entitled to.
I'm entitled to a pension.
I'm entitled to a pension. I'm entitled to a pension. Again?
I'm entitled to a pension.
Okay.
To a pension.
Pension. At home, I'm entitled to a pension. Yeah. You've worked until you're 65 now, you're entitled to a pension. I'm entitled to a pension. Tendrás que tragar tu orgullo. Actually, let's go to the other. Tendrás que tragar tu orgullo. You'll have to.
You have to.
You'll have to.
You have to.
Exactly the same. Swallow.
To swallow your pride.
Pride, exactly. Good. At home, you'll have to swallow your pride. With the contraction, you'll have to swallow your pride. Okay. Has hecho progresos fenomenales en los 3 últimos meses.
You've done terrific progress.
Ooh, but progress?
Progresses.
Progress.
Huh?
But we don't do progress,
You have made...
Yeah.
You've made terrific progress.
Yeah.
In the last 3 years.
Meses.
In the last 3 months.
Good. You've made terrific progress in the last 3 months. Good job, Mario.
Thank you.
He's made terrific progress in the last 3 months. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. Fue una experiencia gratificante. It was a
rewarding experience.
Yes, it was a rewarding experience. It was a rewarding experience. Vaya follón.
What a mess.
What a mess. What a mess. En casa? What a mess. All right. Good job, Mario. Well done.
Thank you.
Good job at home. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, now I want to teach you something. Well, every time we start a class, normally I say, hello and welcome back to another class. I'm glad to see you again. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad. And the opposite, I'm sorry. You never hear me say, welcome back. I'm sorry to see you again. I'm sorry you're back. You never hear me say that because it's not true. I'm glad you're back. Now let's study the expression glad, and maybe if we have time or comparatively, we'll look at I'm sorry. Lamento, me arrepiento, etc. These things. But on camera 1, okay? All right, I'm glad to see you on camera one. Okay, I'm glad. I'm glad. I am glad es me alegro. No decimos I'm happy. Soy feliz de que estés de vuelta. No, I'm glad. I'm glad. Me alegro de saber que estás bien. I'm glad to know you're okay. I'm glad to know. Me alegro de verte. I'm glad to see you. Me alegro de conocerte. I'm glad to meet you. Eso lo sabéis de sobra. I'm glad to. Ahora, si entra otra persona, otro sujeto segundo, yo me alegro de que él esté alegre. I'm glad he. No ponemos that, aunque es correcto. I'm glad that he is happy. Me alegro de que él sea feliz o esté feliz. I'm glad he's happy. Me alegro de que él sepa. I'm glad he knows. En español utilizáis el subjuntivo. Sepa. En inglés no. En indicativo sabe. Me alegro de que él sabe. I'm glad he knows. I'm glad he knows your name. I'm glad. Y luego yo mismo. Me alegro de tener esta taza. I'm glad to have this. Bah, that's correct. But I'm glad I have this cup. I'm glad I have this job. I'm glad I can use this pen every day. I'm glad to have Maria here helping me. I'm glad you are here. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I came here yesterday. Curioso, escuchado otra vez. Me alegro de que haya venido ayer. O me alegro de que viniera ayer, sería correcto, I think in Spanish. Me alegro de que yo viniera aquí. I'm glad I came. Me alegro de haber venido, probablemente sería lo mejor. Ayer, pues me alegro hoy de haber venido aquí ayer. I'm glad I came. Se admite, I'm glad to have come, but we don't say that. I'm glad I came here yesterday. I'm glad I came to Spain, originally. I'm glad I met my wife many years ago because I still love my wife. And she's the mother of my children. And I love my children. So of course, I'm glad I met my wife. Me alegro de haber conocido a mi mujer. I'm glad I met my wife. I'm glad I made a telephone call. I'm glad I sat down on a bench on a particular street in this city to read the job ads, the job offers. And I'm glad there was a telephone booth, una cabina telefónica al lado del bancos donde estaba sentado. I was sitting on a bench in 1975, October 1975. I was sitting on a bench reading a newspaper, and as I turned the pages of the newspaper, I reached the classified section of the newspaper. And I said, well, why not? And I looked at the section for English teachers, looking for English teachers. And I saw a number. Said, okay, I'll call this number later, maybe. But I noticed there was a telephone booth about 5 meters from the bench. I said, oh, well, why not? So I got up and I went to the telephone booth. I dialed the number in the newspaper, and the person, a lady, answered, said, well, come right now for an interview. And so I said, well, fine. And so I went. And I had an interview, and boom, I was accepted immediately. The afternoon receptionist in that school was my future wife. So, if I hadn't bought a newspaper that day, I wouldn't have met my wife. If I hadn't sat down on that particular bench, I wouldn't have met my wife. If there hadn't been a telephone booth next to the bench, I wouldn't have met my wife. If I hadn't had a coin to put into the telephone booth, under the telephone, I wouldn't have met my wife. If the lady who answered the phone hadn't invited me immediately, probably I never would have met my wife. And if I hadn't accepted the job, I never would have met my wife. So there are many, many conditions that give me the children I have today. Probably I'm here because I bought a newspaper and sat on a particular bench on a particular street. Okay, now, ahora vamos a ver como me alegro de haber comprado el periódico ese día. Me alegro de verme sentado en ese banco. Me alegro de que hubiera al lado, escuchar. Me alegro de haber comprado el periódico ese día. I'm glad I bought. Me alegro, compré. Así lo decimos en inglés. Me alegro, yo compré. I'm glad I bought a newspaper that day. I'm glad I sat on that particular bench. I'm glad that particular bench was in that particular street. I'm glad there was. Me alegro, había. O sea, me alegro de que hubiera. I'm glad there was a telephone booth next to the bench. I'm glad I had a coin to make a telephone call. I'm glad I called that particular school in the newspaper. There were several others, okay? The probability that I would have met my wife at the beginning of that day, when I got up that morning, the probability that I would have met my wife was probably 1 in 100,000 or 1 in 10,000. But a series of small coincidences, boom, 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 was determined that I would meet my future wife, okay? And that's life, okay? So I'm glad I bought the newspaper. I'm glad I sat on the bench. I'm glad there was a telephone booth, and I'm glad I had a coin. I'm glad I called that particular language school, and I'm glad I decided to take the job, even though the pay wasn't very good, I remember. I took the job anyway. So somebody up there or somebody in here was saying, take the job. This is your future. You're creating your future now. In everything you do, in every decision you make, there are seeds of success for you in the future. Se plantan semillas a diario para el éxito. Yes, o para la felicidad. Plant the seeds. Always take opportunities. Maybe they don't work, but other opportunities do, okay? I'll be back in a few minutes after our sponsors to continue. Okay. Do you remember the story of my wife? Well, of course. I'm glad that particular morning in October 1975, I'm glad I bought a newspaper. I'm glad I went to a particular street. I'm glad I sat down on a bench on that street to read the newspaper. I'm glad I reached the classified section with the job. I'm glad I chose one telephone number to call. I'm glad I had a coin to call. I'm glad there was a phone booth next to the bench. And I'm glad I accepted the job. Okay, so I'm glad I didn't buy a magazine. I'm glad I didn't go to a different street. I'm glad I didn't sit down on a place far from a phone booth. And I'm glad I didn't have a pocket with no coins. And I'm glad I didn't reject the job. All right, so let's go on to another teacher, and then we'll come back together again in a few minutes.
Thank you, Richard. My name's Carly, and now we're going to practice what Richard has just finished explaining. But first, I want to introduce my student, Anna. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. If you're ready, we are going to practice I'm glad.
Okay.
I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thank you. So I'm
Perfect. So we're going to practice the verb I'm glad. And you know what? It is shocking how easy it is in English. In Spanish, it's difficult. For me, it's difficult. In English, it's very easy. All right? I'm going to give some sentences in Spanish, and it's going to be difficult for me. And you are going to translate them.
Okay.
All right? At home, you have to repeat. You have to repeat with us as much as possible. So what I want you to do, practice the intonation, practice good pronunciation, and above all, I'm glad you came in the past. I'm glad you talked to him. Good pronunciation of the verbs in the past. You're going to see. All right, ready?
Okay, ready.
Me alegro de haber venido a España hace 2 años.
Me too.
Look at her. She's all happy. Tell me in English.
I'm glad you came to Spain 2 years ago.
Good. And in
I
this
came
case,
to
yeah,
Spain.
I'm glad I came to Spain 2 years ago. One more time.
I'm glad I came to Spain 2 years ago.
Very good. I'm glad I came to Spain 2 years ago. That's all. It's so easy. I'm glad and the past verb, if it happened in the past. I'm glad I came to Spain 2 years ago. Good. Me alegro de que no tuvieras que ir a una reunión tan aburrida.
I'm glad I didn't have to go to such a boring meeting.
Perfect. Look how easy it is in English. This is impossible for me in Spanish. You say, I'm glad you didn't have to go to such a boring meeting. To such. That could be a little tricky. To such a boring meeting. One more time.
I'm glad I didn't have to go to such a boring meeting.
Perfect, good. I'm glad you didn't have to go to such a boring meeting. We have no subjunctive here. All we do is I'm glad you didn't have to go. Super easy, all right? Good. Me alegro de que no tuvieras que hacer la cena para tanta gente.
I'm glad you didn't have to cook dinner for so many people.
Perfect. To cook or hacer la cena?
To make dinner?
To make dinner, perfect. I would say to cook the dinner like she said, or to make dinner, no the. One more time.
To make dinner. Oh,
Good,
I'm
without the
glad.
sentence?
I'm glad you didn't have to make dinner for so many people.
Perfect, good. I'm glad you didn't have to make dinner for so many people. Notice we didn't say make the dinner, all right? It's not the dinner. We just refer to it as make breakfast, make lunch, make dinner. I'm glad you didn't have to make dinner for so many people. No the. That's a very common error. I'm going to make the dinner. We're going to have the Christmas dinner on the 25th of December. You could say that because it's specific, but you never have to. You could say we're going to have Christmas dinner. I'm going to make dinner, etc. All right, continue. Me alegro de que al final no fueras a Australia.
I'm glad you didn't go to Australia after all.
After all, lovely. After all, or you could say in the end, but after all is wonderful. Good. Tell me again.
I'm glad you didn't go to Australia after all.
Very good. After all, al final. You could say after all, in the end. After all is better though. It sounds really natural. Very good. Where did you hear that? Look at her. She's great. You say, I'm glad you didn't go to Australia after all. Perfect. Good. Me alegro de haber estudiado mucho.
I'm glad I studied a lot.
Good. I'm glad I studied a lot. Much? It's present. I'm glad I studied a lot with good pronunciation in the past. I'm glad I studied a lot. One more time.
I'm glad I studied a lot.
Very good. Me alegro de haber llegado a ser médico o médica.
I'm glad I got to be.
I'm glad we would say here, I would say I became.
I became.
I became.
I'm glad I became a doctor.
Good. I'm glad I became a doctor. The moment you finish your studies and you become something, I've become a teacher. You've become a book publisher, no? Very good. So this with the occupation as well. So, me alegro de haber llegado a ser médico o médica. You'd say, I'm glad I became a doctor. A doctor, always. Very good. Let's continue with a couple more, and then we're going to practice being sarcastic. All right. Me alegro de haber cocinado mucho.
I'm glad I cooked a lot.
Good. I'm glad I cooked a lot. O tanto?
So much.
Good. So for example, if you have dinner for 6 people, but all of a sudden 2 extra people come, you say, oh, I'm glad I cooked so much, right? I'm glad I cooked so much. Good pronunciation and practice it. I'm glad I cooked, really strong. I'm glad I cooked so much. If you say, I'm glad I cook so much, it's because you do it all the time. It's that present simple. But in the past, I'm glad I cooked so much. And that, I think, is difficult, putting it all together in a sentence to sound natural, no? I'm glad I cooked so much. You still have to put emphasis on it. Tell me.
I'm glad I cooked so much.
Oh, lovely. Good. All you do is practice, 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 and repeat after us, repeat. And you're going to get that type of intonation. I'm glad I cooked so much. Cooked so much. All together. You cannot say cook. You have to say cooked. All right. Now we're going to practice. We'll do one more with the profession, all right? Me alegro de haber llegado a ser taxista.
I'm glad I became a taxi driver.
Perfect. If you like driving, become a taxi driver. You say, I'm glad I became a taxi driver. I'm glad I became a taxi driver. And the last one. Me alegro de haber llegado a ser cocinero.
I'm glad I became a cook.
Good. That was a trick and she got it. She didn't make a mistake. I'm glad I became a cook. Cook. Or a chef if you're really important, right? I'm glad I became a cook. Cook or no? I've heard that a few times and it's funny. I'm glad I became a cook. All right. Are you sarcastic?
Yeah, very much so.
Me too. So we're going to practice something that is really important to practice your intonation. So I'm going to say the verb to bet. To bet? How would you say that in Spanish?
No lo sé.
Apostar, I think. It's a little different though, in
But
the
in
sense
a sarcastic
of
way,
exactly.
I don't know.
In the sense of how we use it, I don't think there's a translation in the same way. For example, I would say, I think Real Madrid's going to win the next football game. You want to bet? Right? Like this. You want to bet? That's how we use the verb to bet. However, what we're going to practice right now, I'm going to tell you, for example, you go to a class and you write an exam. and you fail the exam, all right? And I'm going to say, I bet you're glad you took the exam, right? I bet you're glad you took the exam, sarcastic. And what are you going to say?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I'm glad I took the exam, right? And I'm joking because I know she failed. So I'm being sarcastic and I say, I bet you're glad you took the exam, okay? And what do you say?
Yeah, I am, actually.
Yeah. Good. And with bet?
I bet you're...
You say, yeah. Oh, sorry, with bet, no, with glad, with glad.
I'm glad I took the exam.
Yeah, good, but be sarcastic.
Oh, I'm glad I took the exam.
Oh, lovely. Look at her expression. She's like, yeah, I'm glad I took the exam. So you have to really practice this with your expressions. So, I bet you're glad you studied for the test.
What should I say?
And you say, yeah, I'm glad I studied for the test.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad I studied for the test.
She is sarcastic, I can tell. Yeah, I'm glad I studied for the test. It's a joke, we're joking. But this is really common. I don't know, maybe more common in Canada. We're really sarcastic. But this idea of saying, oh yeah, I bet you're glad you studied. And you're like, yeah, pretty glad I studied. So this idea of practicing that good intonation. Okay, a couple more. And practice at home. This is fun. Or fun for me, at least. I bet you're glad you drank that bottle of wine.
Yeah, I'm glad I drank all that bottle of wine.
You're right.
I drank
in the past, yeah.
all that bottle of wine.
Good, one more time.
Yeah, I'm glad I drank all that bottle of wine.
Good, right? You have a hangover, you don't feel good, you're like, yeah, I'm glad I drank that bottle of wine. Or I'm glad I drank that whole bottle of wine. Something like that. Yeah, I am. Last one. I bet you're glad you called her.
Yeah, I'm glad I called her.
Very good. So this good intonation, yeah, I'm glad I called her, right? Yeah, I'm glad I watched the movie. All these types of intonation, being sarcastic. All right, keep practicing. I'll leave you with Richard. Bye-bye.
Okay, welcome back. We have one more segment. Let's have a go at it, shall we? Let's have a go at it. One more time. Let's have a go at it. Are you tired already? Are you tired? Come on. I'm not tired. And I have taught the beginners program, the intermediate program, and now your program. And you're already tired? Come on. You're made of stronger stuff than that. Let's have a go at it. A por ello. Let's have a go at it. All right? Shall we change to camera number 1? Yeah? Let's have a go at it. A por ello. Let's have a go at it, all right? Fine, let's change. 1, 2, 3. Okay, to have a go at something. All right, probarlo, intentarlo. ¿Por qué no? Let's have a go at it. You know, I've been thinking about changing this cup. I'm getting a little bit tired of this cup. And I'm considering the possibility of bringing a cup in which the colors are different. I was talking to Maria about it, and she said, well, I don't know. She said, well, let's have a go at it. A por ello, probémoslo. Let's have a go at it. And this translation list, to do it again, to learn these things by heart. Have you ever learned the 12 sentences on these lists by heart? Yeah, and then reproduce them orally, memorizing these sentences and just saying them in your car, saying them to the wall. Hello, wall. All right, talking to the wall, repeating these sentences. The deadline's tomorrow. Wow, el plazo termina mañana. The deadline's tomorrow. Oh my God, the deadline's tomorrow. Doy por sentado que sabes el desenlace. Yeah, ¿qué tal con esa frase? Shall we have a go at it? Yeah, you want to have a go at it? Okay, I'll say it in Spanish and you repeat it in English. Are you ready to have a go at it? Okay. Doy por sentado que sabes el desenlace. You don't know doy por sentado? Escuchad. Tomo por concedido. I take for granted. To take for granted. To grant, como el general Grant, o el capitán Grant. Okay? To grant is obsequiar, pero también es conceder. Conceder una beca. To grant. Bueno, a grant es una especie de beca. Es una concesión. A grant. So to take for granted, literalmente tomar por concedido. Dar por sentado, dar por supuesto. To take for granted. Okay, doy por sentado. Do you want to have another go at it on this sentence? Do you want to have a go at it? Okay, let's have a go at it. Doy por sentado de que sabes el desenlace. Okay. I take for granted that you know el desenlace. You don't know how to say desenlace in English. The result, el resultado, similar. Yeah. Desenlace y resultado final are very, very similar. Yeah. I take for granted that you know the outcome. Come is venir. Out is salir, saliendo. Venir saliendo de un sitio. Y es el desenlace. ¿Cómo termina? The outcome. Todo junto. The outcome. I take for granted you know the outcome. No, what happened? Well, Pepe was fired and Juan was promoted to chief operating officer. Oh, wow. Pepe was fired. I didn't expect that outcome. I didn't take for granted that outcome. The next one, do you want to have a go at another one? Yeah? Number 11. All right. El chismorreo ha alcanzado niveles insoportables. El chismorreo. You don't remember how to say that? Well, ask me. Richard, how do you say chismorreo in English? Gossip. Las revistas del corazón in English are the gossip magazines. Las revistas del chismorreo. The gossip magazines. We don't say the pink press. Okay, el chismorreo ha alcanzado. The gossip has reached unbearable, insoportables niveles. Unbearable. Bear como oso. To bear is soportar. To stand. To bear. Unbearable. The gossip has reached unbearable levels. Okay. Do you want to have a go at number 10? Would you like to have a go? A por ello. ¿Lo pruebas? Do you want to have a go at number 10 or not? Yeah? Okay. No mistakes this time, okay? Are you ready? Let's have a go at it, okay? Good. ¿Cuándo piensas renovar tu permiso? Very good. When do you plan to renew your permit? Permit, un permiso de caza, por ejemplo, a hunting permit. Normally we say license. License in Inglaterra, license in Estados Unidos. When do you plan to renew? El verbo pensar has two basic meanings. Reflexionar o meditar sobre algo o alguien, to think about, okay. También ocurrírsele a uno, to think of. Nunca se me ocurrió esa posibilidad. I never thought of. No es que yo haya meditado sobre esa posibilidad nunca se me había ocurrido. To think about the possibility es darle vueltas sobre esa posibilidad. To think of the possibilities, cuando dicha posibilidad se te ocurre, anda, podríamos hacerlo de esta forma. And to plan is pensar en el sentido, no pienso hacerlo, no es mi intención. O sí pienso hacerlo mañana por la mañana. I'm planning. Esto no es nada de think. El proceso de think ya terminó, ya es parte de mi planificación. Pienso hacerlo mañana. He estado pensando en hacerlo y ahora pienso hacerlo. I've been thinking about doing it and now I'm planning to do it. Aquí no entra en juego think con pensar en este caso. Así que, ¿cuándo piensas renovar? When do you plan? Or when are you planning? You can use the present continuous or you can use the present simple in this particular case. In many other cases, no. When are you planning to renew your permit or your license? Okay. Are you ready for number 9? Do you want to have a go at it? Yeah? All right, let's have a go at it. Hicieron puente. Okay, you remember from the last time. Yes, they took a long weekend. Yes. Thursday was a holiday. Friday was a working day. And despite the fact that Friday was a working holiday, Manolo and Maria decided to take that day off. So they took a 4-day weekend, skipping a working day, saltando, skipping a working day. And so they took a long weekend. Yeah, they took a long weekend. Do you want to have a go at one more? Do you want to have a go at one more? All right. This one's a bit difficult, but try to remember from before and from yesterday. Están conspirando para derrocar el gobierno. No. They're plotting. Do you remember? Plotting, con doble T. Plotting. They're plotting to overthrow the government. To overthrow the government. Yes, los capitanes portugueses, the Portuguese captains, overthrew the Caetano regime in 1974 for the revolution of the Carnations. They overthrew the Caetano administration for the Revolución de los Claveles in Portugal in 1974. They overthrew the government. Okay. Very good. Well, I'll be back in a few minutes. Yes, I'll be back in a few minutes to close the program.
Thank you very much, Richard. My name is Alberto Alonso, and you're watching Vaughan Inglés 4.0. That's right. Yeah, you know it. So what's the story? Are you learning or what? I hope so. If you're following along, there's no reason why you shouldn't be learning. That's right. Well, I have living proof. Eso es, la prueba viviente. I have living proof that if you make an effort, it works. Yeah, no hay gran secreto aquí. If you make an effort, you put in the time, you study, you try and communicate as every opportunity you get, well, no queda otra. That's right. And here to be a testimony, to give us a testimony of this, is one of my star students. Now, she is the lovely, beautiful, charming, intelligent, studious, and oh so exotic. Es que no me ocurría otra. Exotic. I like exotic. Exotic is good, right? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Isabel to the show. How are you,
Hello,
Isabel?
fine.
All right. Did you like your introduction?
Yes, of course.
Es que la última digo, ¿dónde voy con esto? Digo, exotic. Yeah, you're exotic. Yeah,
Okay.
this is a good thing. It's not a bad
If you
thing.
say so.
You don't want to look like everybody else. You want to have a unique look. Now, tell me, I mean, was I joking before when I said that it's not an accident? No es por casualidad. There's a reason that you have improved in English. Why? Tell the people at home, what's your secret?
I improved because I've been studying all the year, and I've
All
been
year?
all year, and I've been practicing. So that's the point: to study and to learn as much as you can,
Right.
because it's worth it.
It's worth it. Vale la pena. Now, she told me a few years ago she didn't speak any English at all. Is this right?
You're right.
So, and then you said, one day you said, you know what? It's time. I've got to do it.
Yes. Now I understand the TV, the radio, everything. I
Great.
don't have any problem.
And it's great too, because not only are you communicating in English, but you're doing it with these intimidating cameras here. And you've done it, you've been on my radio program too, and you did a great job. Did you win with points? I think last time you won. There was a tie, un empate.
Yes.
Marta, a friend of yours, and you
Yes.
had a tie. We have to have the rematch. A ver quién gana. We have to see.
Let's see.
Let's see. There remains
Next
to.
time.
It's TBD. Do you know TBD?
TBD.
Ask me what TBD stands for.
What does TBD stand for?
TBD stands for to be determined. Que no se sabe. Sí, local, TBD, to be determined. Hora, TBD, que no se ha cerrado todavía. So we'll see. Stay tuned. We'll see who wins with points. Well, Isabel, we're going to look at some vocabulary today. Okay, are you ready to look at some vocabulary?
Yes, of course.
Ask the people at home if they're ready.
Are you ready, guys?
Yeah, I think they're ready. Okay, here we go. How do you say asustar?
Asustar, to frighten.
Good, very good. To frighten. Perfecto, la pronunciación perfecta. Frighten.
Frighten,
Perfect. Okay, how do you say rendirse?
to give up.
To give 10 puntos, 5 y 5. No, doble puntos. I'm very happy with it. 10 and 10, 20 points. How do you say me rindo?
I give up.
I give up. How do you say no te rindes? Díselo a ellos en casa.
Don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up. No te des por vencido. Don't give up. Don't quit. Don't give up. Okay, comida. How do you say cebolla?
Onion.
Onion, onion. One more time.
Onion.
That's right. Do you like onions?
Yes, I like them.
Ask me if I like onions.
Do you like onions?
Can you tell by my face what the answer is?
No, you don't like it.
I don't like onions. No, I'm not a big fan. No soy gran fan. But I guess in Spain it's almost impossible to eat something without onion. It's a good thing, at least, al menos, it's a good thing I like olive oil, aceite de oliva, because that's in everything.
Yes.
Even in sweet things, cosas dulces, you find olive oil. It's great. I love it. Liquid gold. Okay, how do you say hacer una fiesta?
To throw a party.
Muy bien. Decimos en inglés lanzar una fiesta. Ahora me dijiste antes que esto ahora lo dices mal en español.
Yes.
¿Cómo lo dices?
I say, I'm going to lanzar una fiesta.
Voy a lanzar una fiesta. Qué bien.
Yeah.
Me encanta. I used to say echar, because echar is throw. Vamos a echar una fiesta. My friends would say hacer una fiesta. Y esto es un ejemplo de lo que vemos que no puedes traducir palabra por palabra. Right? Yo dije una vez en una clase, bueno, varias veces. Digo, do we make questions or do questions? Y la mitad de la clase, make. Yeah, we make questions. Y la otra mitad, no, we do questions. ¿Qué make? We do questions. Y al final les digo, pues ninguno, ask. We ask questions. Y se quedaron como, digo, eso es lo que pasa por traducir. Right? Entonces, esto es un ejemplo perfecto. No lanzamos o arrojamos una fiesta, pero en inglés, to throw a party. How do you say, estoy haciendo una fiesta en mi casa?
I'm throwing a party today.
Yeah, I'm throwing a party at my house, or a house party. I'm throwing a house party. Not very common in Spain. This is more American. Los padres se van de viaje, fiestón ahí, right? This is very, here it's more botellón, the big bottle. El botellón. Well, not at our age so much. Sometimes, it depends,
Yes.
right? Durante ferias y cosas así, right? The La Latina Festival, la paloma. The pigeon. How do you say una paloma?
Dove.
A dove or a pigeon? La paloma blanca is a dove, and pigeon es la que a nadie le gusta. Ok, y la otra es fuera de contexto. How do we say fuera de contexto?
Out of context.
Perfecto. Y te voy a dar 50 puntos por eso. 50 points, ok? Double points for there. Ok, now how do you say, voy a intentar algo. Quiero intentar el voleibol, por ejemplo.
I'm going to try volleyball.
Ok, I'm going to try es bien, pero hay otra muy nativa que decimos to have a go at something. To have a go at it. Por ejemplo, estoy jugando algo en el iPod. Alberto, let me have a go at it. Déjame intentar, déjame probar. Right? So we say to have a go at something. So I'll ask you some questions just to practice this structure. Okay, did you have a go at learning Swahili last year?
No, I didn't have a go at learning Swahili last year.
Muy bien. To have a go at más el verbo en ing. Gerund.
Okay.
I didn't have a go at learning Swahili last year. Ask me if I had a go at skiing.
Do you have a go at?
you?
Did you have a go at skiing?
Yeah, I had a go at it when I was young, and I didn't do very well. I fell down a lot, and so I gave up. But I had a go at snowboarding a few years later, and that I love. So see, you never know. You never know. To have a go at es intentar algo. Okay? Have you ever had a go at playing guitar?
No, I've never have.
I've never had.
I've never had that go at it.
I've never had a go at it.
I've never had a go at it.
Yeah, I've never had a go at playing guitar or at it. Ask me if I've ever had a go at playing guitar.
Have you ever had a go at playing guitar?
Yes, I've had a go at it, but that's all. Se quedó en un go, right? I'm not very good, but I have a go at it sometimes with my friends. My friends love to play the guitar at the house, right? Okay, ask me if I've ever had a go at salsa dancing.
Have you ever had a go at dancing salsa?
No, I've never had a go. I practice. I pretend, finjo, that I do something. Have you ever had a go at salsa?
No, I've never had a go at dancing salsa.
Well, we're going to have a go at dancing salsa, so we have to go. See you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, class number 80 is over, yes. Question, I have heard that you are plotting to overthrow me as the director of this program. Is it true? Are we planning a coup here? Un golpe de Estado? A coup? The French word, coup d'état, golpe de Estado. La palabra is coup. We say coup. That's to overthrow the government is through a coup. Are you planning to overthrow the government of Vaughan Inglés 4.0? Are you planning to overthrow me? All right. Are you happy with this course? I hope so, because I'm doing the best I can, and I think the rest of the teachers are all doing the best they can to make English attractive and accessible y asequible para vosotros, so that you can continue to improve. We have a long way to go and a lot more English to do. It's going to be fun. See you tomorrow.